pull you down. I'm using the 3mm faceted rondelles. I think these are imitation Austrian or imitation jade and the jet black. And then I am using some 11-0 Tohos. And those are these right here, and I think they're indigo. And so I'm using, for each of my 3 strands, I'm using 5 of the black and on each strand, and then 2 of the Tohos. And then I'm putting my strands together to put the rondelle together. We're doing a bit of a split. Then what I did up here on the top, finishing it off, was I put I believe 2 of the 4mm right here. I put them there, so that's helping my bead cone. And then I put another one on top, and we're doing a double crimp, which, you know, I've got you really up close, but, you know, when you're wearing the earring, you cannot even tell it's there. It's so cool. And then, of course, I'm making my own ear wire. But again, you can use like any combination of these supplies that you have in your stash. So let's get to it, shall we? So to start this earring out, friends, what I did, and let me walk you through where we're at, and we'll finish the rest up together here, is I took and cut 3 5-inch pieces of my monofilament and just flush cut each side. And then I married up the ends on this side here, put all 3 strands through a number 1 crimp bead and gave it a smush with my chain nose. Right there, as you can see, just about right to the edge, but I left a little bit of tail out. You want that so that that crimp grips your mono because it's a little slippery. Kind of similar concept as like Coriana chain. So you need to have a little bit of a tail. And then I continued to keep all 3 strands together after I crimped it off, flush cut it, made sure it was nice and even. I crimped it, cut all 3 strands together and put on my 8mm. And then I separated, as you can see here, all 3 of my strands, right? And I fed on an 11-0 Toho on the bottom of each strand, 5 of the rondelles, these are 3mm, and then another 11-0 Toho. And then I'm going to now just continue the same pattern, and we'll do it together here one more time. The trick to this one is when we're finishing it, and I'll show you that in a minute. So now I'm going to slide that down. Now, you could probably sit here and fuss with it, which I kind of did, and kind of pressing it together to get that kind of like sphere shape that I'm looking for. But it didn't seem to matter, because see how that's kind of like perfect? That's laying like perfectly on each side. That's why I put the little 11-0s there. But there's no sense in doing that now. That's why I'm double crimping it at the top, and I'll show you what I mean. Because as we're stringing the next section, which will do exactly the same, it's just going to loosen this up. So I am just going to, once again, separate my strands and repeat this pattern. So I am putting on an 11-0. And then 5 of the 3mm. And then an 11-0. So if you have a bunch of seed beads, this is a great project. These kind of really cool splits, you know, these split techniques, I love them because there's just a million and one variations. Once you get that simple technique down, you can add as many beads as you want here. You could make each section as big or little as you want. Oh, it's just a cool technique. So now that's what I have. I have that same pattern twice, right? So now I'm going to put all of my strands together, okay? And then this is where I am going to take all 3 of my strands and I'm going to feed them on these 4mm beads to go and tuck up into my bead cone. And then I am going to push these down, right? And now I am going to put all 3 of these strands right through my bead cone so that I can get this adjusted. Oh, and I need 1 more of those beads. I almost forgot. Grab 1 more here. I forgot I put 1 on the top. And then I am going to put my last bead here on the top. Now, and this is that same 4mm, that gradient blue, down all 3 of my strands. So these last 4 things. So I put 2 4mm, my bead cap, and then my third 4mm. So 1, 2, the bead cap, and or bead cone, excuse me, and then this. I put that down all of my strands, right? Now this is where I'm gonna fidget with it because you can kind of tell that it's off, right? It's not snug like it needs to be. But we can fix that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is before I start to finagle with it, I'm actually going to flush cut my entire top there. And then I am going to get my number 1 crimp, also put down all 3 of my pieces of mono here. Because as soon as I have this the way I want it, I'm going to want to go ahead and crimp that. And I'm going to crimp it off with my chain nose, okay? So what I do, guys, is I just basically take and hold this end, and I'm going to start with the first section. So I'm going to grab this rondelle and this rondelle, and what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to kind of push the rondelles together as I'm also pushing this rondelle down and looking to see that they all kind of are flush, and you see how it looks like this little like sphere? Right? And that's what I want. And I want it to stay that way. Okay? And so now I need to push all this down. Okay? So now I am going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to grab this bead cap, my bead cone with those 2 4mm in it, and I am going to push it down and do the same thing, working in this section. And there we go. Perfect. And now I am going to grab my chain nose and I'm going to give this a squeeze, making sure again, notice how my beads are centered on my cone there. Did I get you? Okay, we did it. Woohoo! There we go. And now what I do at the top, guys, is you can do anything you want really, but what I decided to do was go ahead and cut away. Notice how you can tell where my middle strand is. I have a strand here. This is my middle strand right here, and then there's the end strand. I'm cutting away both of my outside strands, and then I'm going to make a loop and crimp it right to my ear wire. So I'm going to take this, but make sure you're not cutting all your wires. Just cut one at a time. And then I'm going to make sure I keep my center one, which is this one. And now I'm going to get rid of this one on this side. I'm just going to flush cut it. Okay, so now those are gone. And I'm just left with that. And now I need to grab 1 more crimp. I do that every time, you guys. I don't know why I decide to spill and dump. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so in order to make our earwire, I'll pull you up. This is what I do, guys. If you're not familiar, I just grab my 6-step and I'm just going to kind of match this up to this one. I usually make them at the same time, but that's okay. I've already made my spiral. I do have We just did this in my membership group. I'm not sure if I have a tutorial up on that or not. I may. You can poke around in my Jewelry 101 playlist. We may also, I think I did this in my 12 days of DIY during December. That's in my craft playlist. I think I made some of these spirals. So if you don't not familiar, check out one of those playlists. So I'm just going to use the largest step on my bail making. And I'm going to kind of line these up and see where I need to be. Looks like maybe about right there. Okay. I think so. Yep. And just put them in there. I'm going to just let that roll around, except for I just put it on the wrong bail. Okay. Switcheroonie. That's easy. Way too long. So let me pull that down. Okay, that looks better. And that's what I've got there. And so there's my ear wire. And now kind of not too shabby, Jen. I'm just gonna line them up here together and trim off my wires so they're relatively even. So we'll flush cut that. And then what I usually do with my ear wires are using my bent nose. I gently just go to the edge and I'll just kick back that little end piece just a little bit. Okay, and then I will grab my nail file. So I don't forget, I usually do it right now. And just gonna file the ends of the part that goes through my ear. It's always a good idea. You don't want anything metal that's jagged going through skin. Very nice and soft. Excelente. And then I'm going to kind of take and look at them and see if they look even. And to me, they do. And this is already pretty well centered on my wire, my spiral there. And so now what I'm going to do, I'll pull you down for the last part here, is I took now my earring and I am going to put my crimp and feed that down. And then I'm going to grab this mono and I'm going to put it through the center of my spiral. And then we're going to go around the back of my spiral with the tail of my mono. And then I'm going to put that tail through my crimp. And now I'm going to pull it down and center it now to where also that I'm crimping my crimps the same direction, which is to the side. So that's super easy, guys. All we want to do, because we don't want our mono to cross either, is I'm just going to kind of pull it up until it's laying right underneath that spiral. I think that's what I did over here. It's really pretty tight on that spiral, so it's not going anywhere. So I'm just going to pull that tail until that crimp is sitting right underneath my spiral there. And then I will hold my tail while we crimp. And again, I'm going to crimp this way because that's the front of my earring. And I'll just give that a squeeze. And now I'm going to trim my excess there. And there we go. Voila. Aren't these so cute? I hope you guys are inspired. And I wanted to show you guys my full set. And I also have another surprise. I wanted to show you guys the necklace that we made. I told you I'd pull it in my next project. So I want to show you. So that's what we've got. That's what we've got for our fun earrings. So adorable. I just really think they are so cute. And so that is my 3-piece set I have made that coordinates beautifully, I might add. I just, this is something fun. I don't think I've done anything like this in a long time. You know, we made a lot of, you know, we used a lot of, I incorporated a lot of wire. And then with the chain too over here, and then the link components. I think the balance is it just works. It goes well. I like the blues with the black, so not mad at that set. So that is my final project out of